Yeah, that worked that time.
That's like slickest intro we've ever had. Only it's only taken us 2 years.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Phenomenal work, mate. Love the art. love the art in my picture.
That picture took me absolute ages to draw. Like that was my Sunday afternoon project this week.
What do you mean that's not Sonny's artwork?
Sonny helped with some of the colouring. To be honest, I can't take full responsibility because Sonny likes to use the app that I do my painting on. So he click the bucket and you can just press buttons.
Yeah. Good colorists can make an artist,
Hi, welcome to episode 80 of the Brewgooders League of Beer and Comics. We're all three of us are here from the beginning. I'm Jeff, this is Colin, this is Andrew. We've no guests this week. Normally we would, we've had lots of really awesome guests over the last couple of months. It's been brilliant, but this is much more of a kind of traditional podcast. This is kind of the way that we always did it, where we just chat through the beer and comics that we've been experiencing this week. And says at the bottom, just drop a like, say hi if you've got anything to chat about or that you've been reading or listening to. Just say hey. But yeah, those likes and those shares in that are really good for the algorithms and the insights. So please get that done. What are we all drinking? I know Colin's well into a beer just now.
I've started this evening with Kvike Session IPA, 4.2%. It's a little hazy and a little slightly bitter, but nice.
Did you not have that one before, Colin? Have you had that on the show before? That Kvike IPA?
Something like it.
Yeah.
Certainly,
I got it in a box.
Yeah, certainly. I've had a Kvike here. I've got one downstairs as well, which I'm looking forward to opening.
Yeah, I got it in a taster box, which I've got a couple of them out today to give them a go. I've got a Black Eagle Black IPA up to try next, which has got one of the most beautiful cans.
Is that Magic Rock? Who does that?
It is Black Eagle, West Coast Black. I honestly can't see a name on it, mate.
The can art reminds me of is it Black Rock? No, or
Brew York. It says.
All right, Brew York. Yeah.
Brew York. Sorry, even with the reading glasses on, this is I'm poor lighting.
Can you see it? I like them. Brew York. I had a wee look back because me and Colin had a discussion about when we did our movie episode and we couldn't work out what the four cans that we drank. We couldn't remember what movies we were referencing, but one of them was Brew York, and it's just escaped me again. We did a Bruce Campbell and the Army of Darkness beer, and we did we did the Jaws one, we did a Django Unchained one, and the fourth one was a Brew York, and I had it
from Brew York.
No, I had the picture lined up because it was on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh, that's the beer."
Are these ones are like named as in bad puns?
Well, they're all puns. When we first started the podcast, we did like we tried to like theme every week. So like we would do stouts 1 week or beers that we had one of our sort of early successful podcasts was like a gluten-free week we did where all the beers didn't have any gluten. Okay. That was a really nice week actually. The beers were really interesting, but we did do one where it was just like, well, we just do beers that've got film puns and have fun with that. And there's actually loads. There was like the Amity, which was like the Jaws one. I'm trying to think. I'm blathering as I'm talking through. I'm trying to find the pictures again because there was the Bruce Campbell. It was called like Juice Campbell and the Army of Dankness was the name of the beer.
Like anything associated with Bruce Campbell is automatically cool. I think he's just the coolest guy.
There's been a lot of chat about him. The other beer so Juice Campbell was Brew York. And We had Arbor's Shaun of the Red was the other one we did.
Oh yes.
That was really nice. That was like an American red ale, and then Brew York. The Brew York. I just recognised the can art on that one that you had there. So Brew York do it's like the name of the beer is in like a thin. It's like a thin like rectangle, isn't it? And then surrounding the rectangle, there's like kind of silhouetted art. Yeah, there, totally. That's cool.
It really is just like the nicest, coolest can.
I remember the Juice Campbell one's got it's like that, but it's red and purple, and then you've got like chainsaws and silhouettes of like chainsaws and hands and stuff from like obviously things referenced in the movies.
Armor Darkness and stuff like that.
It's just really good branding, yeah. Who's the beer? You said it was hazy. But,
yeah, that's the Kvike Session. That's just a session IPA. Again, came with a box that I've got from the Garden Brewery. Not unpleasant. Usually when I look at them, they're a little bit hazy. I think it's going to be a bit bitter, but it's not unpleasant.
Yeah, Kvike comes from the yeast that you use it. It's a yeast that was being, I think, cultured in, I think, Norway, certainly Scandinavia.
We've been using the same.
It speeds up the brewing process.
Okay.
And gives you flavours that you don't normally associate with a fast brewing process.
You said it's quite floral, if I remember correctly. There's only a couple of them. There's only a couple of Kvike hopped beers that I think you get. I know Tesco's do one. I remember you drank one, I think, and I went up to Tesco's the next day and managed to find it. And it was like, but yeah, it's definitely got. There's almost like a pungent. I don't want to use the word pungent because that's not a very nice word. But there's definitely like there's
it has some body to it.
Yeah,
it has.
I tried to explain it to Claire once, and I'm not very good at describing things, which is annoying considering I have a podcast every week where I have to describe lots of different things. But I remember drinking it, and the way I kind of explained it to Claire is like it's like they did the beer, and then they put something really powerful and strong right in the middle of it, just to get a little oomph. But as I say, that's not a very good explanation.
I think everyone explains beer differently. Like I said, for me, I will get. I'll try 10 beers, and at the end of the time, it's like it tastes like beer, whether it's an IPA or a stout or something like that. It's obviously as I drink it, without knowing what it was, you can spot an IPA by the kind of slightly bitter aftertaste that it has, which I like. That's why I drink a lot of IPAs. So it's a winner for me. It was a friend of mine who gave me he has an 8 cans of beer or 8 bottles of beer, a monthly subscription sort of thing, and he had a free subscription for me to try it out. So I sent away and I got 8 free bottles of beer. Depending on how good they are, I may keep the subscription going, I may not. Obviously, the hope is that I'll be able to get out and buy more beer. I know our local shop had a wee bit of a setback again.
Oh, no.
This week after only being just reopened, didn't even manage to get in before he was.
That was a hard one, like. But yeah, hopefully early next week he's hoping to get back in, isn't he? So.
Yeah, I was in on Saturday. Got a few beers, so just in time.
It was last Friday. Can I just say, because this is an exclusive and one I'm really, really proud of. Listen, I'm proud of it. See when the beer shop opened last Friday.
Yeah,
I was the first person in. I was a Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant's first in-store customer in 2021.
Brilliant.
Okay, well I've got you might have been the first customer. But I was the first customer to put on social media that they were open.
Yeah. Well, I shared my beer and said, "Oh, I'm glad that my shops open, my local comic book shops, beer shops open again." But I didn't like share I didn't tag them or anything. But okay then. Right, you win, Colin. It's fine. Thank you.
Okay, you both win. I didn't manage to get along, so I'm still reduced to buying beers at local supermarkets and things like that. So.
it was amazing getting back in.
Evening, Neil.
I totally Neil. I would just want to say evening, Neil, as well. Neil is one of our guests at the beer event we're doing next month, which is quite exciting.
Cool.
So he bought a sticker earlier this week, which was really cool.
Ooh.
He's drinking Stout Keith from the Keith Brewery, which is really we like them. I like their branding. I don't know if anyone else has seen them, but their branding, they've got the word Keith in all their branding, so it's like it's pretty cool. I got there.
I do like a stout, but I don't feel like usually that stout is a school night drink. I think if I start on stouts, it's easy to get lost. So.
I got a couple of their beers at I want to say like 10 Bay service station. You know, the one that's on the M6, I think it is. Yeah. It's like, I got a bunch of their beers from there, and there was one called Smoke Keith, which I liked, but it was really smoky. It was like they'd done something to the malt before and the oats, like they'd cooked it before they put them into the beer, and you could taste it. It was like there was like an aftertaste of like ash. It was really odd. You know, it was quite a strange sensation, but it was quite a nice beer. I'm not explaining that very well. Kind of like sometimes when you hang around the fire and you can almost kind of taste the fire, like particularly if you've got a wee fire. Like, it was a bit. Yeah, like
I do a lot of camping with my scout leader in my spare time as well. So when you're allowed to, I used to do a lot of camping, and I'm fully used to having ash in the bacon roll, ash in the tea, ash in the coffee, ash in the scone. You know, ash is
Yeah, fair enough. What was the other? What are you drinking, Colin?
I've got it's kind of a lockdown themed one. Jammies to work. New England from Overtone.
Oh, I love Overtone.
So Overtone is kind of a staple. You know, they do decent stuff. All of their beers are ranked, 3 up into the 4s on Untapped. It's kind of hard to pick an Overtone that's not good to do. Across the board, decent, so you'd expect kind of yours to it, and it's that beautiful yellow opaqueness that you get. It's got your tropical kind of mango-y passion fruit smell, and it's quite juicy, and it's a bit kind of resinous towards the end. Kind of it's bitter and resinous towards the end. Probably just slightly too much for me. I'm not keen on that resinous sort of bitterness that you get. But I think it's quite highly rated, this one. But it's not quite my cup of tea. I prefer a kind of softer finish on it. But pretty decent beer. 6%, I think it is.
Well, that's pretty. I like Overtone stuff.
Quite strong, yeah.
That's I've not drank an Overtone that I've disliked. Their lager's quite nice. It's a Cashmere Lager. It's called. Yeah, it's really good. They're just a nice, just a good brewery. They're relatively local as well. Am I making that up? They are Scotland, Overtone, aren't they? No,
I'm pretty sure they're not. No.
Bristol. Am I?
Oh no, they're Glasgow.
I thought they were.
I thought they were further afield.
It's Overtone and Arbor. I've got slightly similar branding and can sizes. So I always I mix them up sometimes. I think Arbor are based in Cardiff, not Cardiff, Bristol-ish. I mean, talking to Cardiff, I'm drinking Oh My God, They Killed by which is a Lotus little Nipa from Tiny Rebel. It's part of their 9th birthday celebration beers that they brought out. So they've got about three or four that are just branded the same, but the writing around it, Oh My God, They Killed is like either yellow or orange. But that's the cans all look kind of similar. So I just grabbed them all.
I knew you were when I saw that there was a whole load of Tiny Rebel in the beer shop, I thought, I bet Jeff's got a few of those.
I bought all of them, and then the one that I put on the One Man Beer Festival, I had it last Friday. It was one I shared saying, "Oh, I'm glad that the beer festival is back. The beer shop is back. I miss Tiny Rebel." It was like a cherry gatto IPA, and it was absolutely outstanding. It was like drinking juice. It was incredible.
I'm wary about flavours like that. One of the ones that I've got today is Christmas eggnog beer, and I'm a bit like, Can I just say what I was saying earlier on about cans? That's one of the nicest looking cans. See, with these cans, I wouldn't be able to throw these things away. They're absolutely beautiful. I'd want to make. I'm getting a new shed later on in the year. I'm going to build a wall just of the nice cans, just wedge them in.
I used to cut the labels off the beer cans that me and Colin when we first started the podcast. I would try and get the labels off and put. The idea was that if we had some sort of space when we did podcasts in the future, we would have like a board behind us. But
all the boards you've drank, sort of thing.
Yeah, it was just really tedious, so I stopped about 8 months into the podcast. Tiny Rebels branding's always really good. They've got that wee guy on all their cans. The teddy bear that looks like he's seen better days. And one of the things I miss about the beer shop is the can art. Like I love. I felt kind of guilty, but I really kind of disliked trying to pick my beers off the spreadsheet. That I did it because I wanted to, but it was much rather being in the store, chatting to it's part of the experience for me. It's chatting to the guys that own the place, and looking at the cans, and I just get a feel for the beers that way. Tiny Rebel, great. This is just this is like a hazy IPA. It really reminds me very much of is it Hazy Jane that Brewdog do? So it's 4.3, 4.8 New England IPA. It's quite there's hardly any left, so you can't even see the color. But it's like a really nice light yellow kind of like really light lager color. It's
And you cleared the shop out of them, did you?
I bought one of each of all the different.
One of each. I thought you said you bought all of them. I was like, so I'm not getting to try that.
No, I didn't clear the shelves of it. No, it was Tiny Rebels. It's their birthday in February, so they do a different thing every year. This year they just did 9 beers. I think last year the gimmick, which was actually quite a cool one, until I went over to Edinburgh to a Tiny Rebel party last year, and realised how expensive it would be to actually engage in the whole experience. But last year it was like there was 8 beers, but you could like pair off certain combinations of those 8 beers, and by mixing them into a glass, you would then get 4 new beers. So with 8 cans, you get 12. And it was quite a cool thing. But
by mixing them into a glass, you would also get really, really drunk.
But that was the plan, and I went over to the place I went to take part in the party. You were looking at it was like £4 or £5 per half pint. So to buy all 8 would cost you between 30 and 40 quid, depending on the one you got, and then you would then have to buy them up them all again to mix them. So you were looking at an 80 or 90 quid night by the time you'd actually. So I didn't manage to complete it the way I wanted to, but
that's deep.
So this year they just brought out 9 beers, so I was able to buy one of each. I'm just starting to work my way through them, and they're brilliant. Tiny Rebel are amazing, and everybody, if you see them, you should just check out. Very I think they're even within their own branding, they have one rule: never just make vanilla ice cream, is what it says on the back of every can. I think they're just they want to do something special with every beer they make.
They're pushing different tastes all the time, which is that's half the point of brewed beers. If all beers tasted the same, we'd all be drinking, Foster's.
Yeah, well, cool. But yeah, that was their toasted marshmallow porter is a favourite of the podcast, I think. Anyway, definitely one me and Colin like, and their Cali Pale Ale is really, really nice. And they have it's a Pump Up the Jam, which is the jam donut IPA they do. Yeah. You can get that in there was a pub in Dunfermline that sold that in cans, and until just before lockdown, and that was a favourite haunt. It was just nice to go and be like, that one, please. Yeah, it sounds totally random, but jam donut IPAs are the absolute bomb.
Again, it's not something generally that I would, when I look at things, and I think I like my beer to taste like beer, and my jam donuts to taste like jam donuts, and sometimes I think, do I want the mix? I was pushing the ball last week with
donuts in your
banana
beer?
bread. I've never dunked donuts in a beer. I said I had a wee rant on Facebook last week about dunking. I don't know if you guys saw it. I think there's something wrong about people who dunk biscuits into tea, because you just end up with a really soggy biscuit or half a biscuit in your tea. And I didn't understand it.
Doing it.
You're a dunker.
When I was doing French at school, and they talked about the French dipping their bread in hot chocolate. Oh, that's a fantastic thing.
No, I've never done that either. No.
I'm just going to put these.
You got some donuts there, have you?
Yeah, I'll put them away.
I mean, the French are renowned for really great things like, killing off the monarchy with the guillotine and stuff.
Yeah.
The pièce de résistance is dunking bread in your hot chocolate.
Well, they do. I would beg to differ, because they came up with something called a French dip, which is most commonly used in sort of America, and it's like a roast beef sandwich, and it comes with a small bowl of gravy, and you dip the entire sandwich into the gravy.
See,
and it's like, that's okay. I'm good with that. Yeah. No, Neil. No, that's just wrong. It's just wrong.
Ginger nuts are fine, because ginger nuts have got such a strong molecular binding. Like you can
they're a top class tea dueling biscuit. If you've never heard of tea dueling is like dueling but without swords, but with tea and biscuit. So like you have people pairing up, going head to head, and you have an assortment of biscuits, and your job is to dunk the biscuit and keep it in there as long as you possibly can before it pops off, and whoever survives, is the winner. It's a thing.
And you've got different types of biscuits.
That sounds fucking shit.
Up against a rich tea or a ginger snap against a nice biscuit or something.
Hobnob.
I like a hobnob. I like a chocolate hobnob.
Yeah.
Like a chocolate caramel hobnob.
But
not dipped in tea.
Now you're talking.
We'll save that for our comics and beer, our film and biscuit podcast.
I will do a film and biscuit. We're doing tests on biscuit here. Instead of drinking beer, we'll be liking this.
This week we're going to watch Empire Strikes Back and eat some custard creams.
We're trying the new Jaffa cakes, which are not orange flavoured. I've seen Jaffa cakes that are like pineapple flavoured and things like this.
I've seen lime ones. Yeah.
Why do you mess with perfection? You know what I mean? Just leave it alone. It's become the biscuit podcast. I'm sorry for that.
What about our comics this week? How have you guys been? Faring?
It was not a great week for new comics. A couple of new comics that I got, a couple of new number ones, are not suitable for a family show. I found out I got a new one called Carmen this week, and opened the first page, and I was like, whoa, not what I expect to see on a Wednesday. And yeah, there wasn't a lot of great. Like, there's no image first this week coming out that I can say this is going to be the next big thing in the hopes. So yeah, a couple of decent new DC books this week. A new Joker run and a new Batman run. But apart from that, yeah, it's a pretty quiet week this week. So I find myself reading old stuff now. I'm reverting to Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez's Lock and Key. I said last year after the show came out that I was going to read the 6-issue run, or the 6-book run, and I find myself reading the first 2 fairly regularly, and then going on to something else and forgetting about them a wee bit. So I'm going to take the opportunity that I've got the time now to read the lot, because he's a genius guy.
But I'd love to do that, but I read them. My work is a library, and the whole Lock and Key series there, and all the librarians have read it because they love it. So I think when I get my work, I'm going to get them out again.
It's great. Joe Hill's, he's a phenomenal talent. If there was ever, an advert for talent being genetic,
goodness,
I think Joe Hill being able to write like that is that advert. So
I've got a few of the spin-off comics as well. There's a really cool one called Dog Days, where they find a key that turns you into an animal, or a different type of animal. So a wee boy turns into a dog, which is great. And there's there's a World War one as well. Where
onwards.
Aye, the one with the War Poets one.
Yeah.
Where one of the Lock boys decides that he wants to go and fight in the war, but he's not old enough, so he uses one of the keys to change his appearance, and then to go to Canada to sign up because they're in America, he can't join the war, so he goes to Canada to try and sign up and goes to war and experiences all this terrible stuff. Really good stuff.
So I'm reading a comment there.
So I was even
I thought it was laughing.
I thought
Impale is it Impale Battalions Go or something? Was that one?
That's the one.
Yeah, very good. Like I say, Joe Hill should absolutely do more comics, less books, less TV shows. I know he's got Nosferatu running at the moment, and that. So
the stuff he was doing with the Black Labels, the Black Label DC.
Yes, he's Basket Full of Heads was my particular favourite of that one.
What was that? Sorry,
Basket Full of Heads.
I have to actually have read that one.
There's a girl found an axe.
He throws out ideas, isn't it? He gives.
Yeah, he wrote that one, and I think the rest of them was ideas that he sort of came up with and other people ran with. But that one was great. It was like a girl found an old Viking battle axe that could cut your head clean off, but leave you alive and still able to talk. So, there's a bunch of ne'er-do-wells, and it takes place on an island in a storm where people have escaped from prison, and she's got to kind of deal with these escaped prisoners, and she ends up with a basket full of heads that are talking to her, leading her to things. It's just such a surreal idea that I absolutely loved it. Those black library ones.
There's one online about the dollhouse, which was really smart.
Dollhouse, yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yeah, Dollhouse Family, wasn't it? Or is that what it's called?
Dollhouse Family, yeah. I think I've got them kicking about somewhere at the back here, a few of them, but I think there was about 4 or 5 different stories, all very good.
There's another one the one that I've not finished it yet because I think I've only got some of them, and I like calling some of them, and then is it Plunged? Is that what it was called?
I think I've got 2 or 3 of those.
Plunge, yeah.
It's just a really cool series, a really scary kind of. I'm watching the now Terror about the doomed Franklin expedition. It's got that kind of vibe, that kind of Lovecraft. I don't know if anyone's watched Terror, by the way. It's really, really smart, and there's definitely I feel anyway. There's definitely like an homage in there, even though it's about this sort of doomed expedition in the 1800s. There's a Lovecraftian thing, that isolation and horror aspect to it. It comes up Plunged as well, and that they have this issue that they're trying to solve in the middle of nowhere, and it's just there's like a very unique. There's a really unique and really quite terrifying vibe. Yeah. On all that media, which is quite incredible.
I think I've got that on my list to watch. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I know it's one of those ones because they didn't really know what happened to those guys. It's based on true events, but with a wide sort of.
So my father-in-law's he is a pathologist. He's actually, if you Google him, I can boast because he's my father-in-law and I'm quite proud of him. He's one of the world's leading pathologists, particularly with regards to inhaled particles. But he is at the moment he's retired and he works in the as a volunteer in the Surgeons' Hall Museum in Edinburgh. And one of the jobs as a researcher, and one of the jobs he does there is he gets to go into the scary. I can imagine it's one of the most horrifying places on earth. But he gets to go into the basement and like dig up bits of bodies, and then he gets to do the research on them. And there's stuff from the Franklin expedition there because Franklin was formerly of Edinburgh Uni. So they sent in the Victorian era, they sent quite a lot of the relics they found back to Edinburgh Uni. So he's actually like able to handle this stuff, and like so he does a couple of lectures on the Franklin expedition, which are really, really awesome. So it's cool going into that, like particularly with regards to the fact that I think it comes up in the program, or it's going to come up in the program that they were hallucinating, because I think they I've not got that far yet, but I know historical records say that when they met Inuits on the continent, they were telling the Inuits about how they were being chased by like this monster, and but then so there's the whole supernatural aspect to that, because it was this like unseen, impossible monster was chasing them. But actually, when they tested the bones and the blood of some of the stuff they found, there was like high traces of lead that they reckon came from like the fact that the cans of food they were eating from weren't sealed properly, and it leaked into their poison system. So as I say, my father-in-law talks a lot about that, the pathology of that. Even just the fact that like lead was leaking into their food was causing them to be physically and mentally ill. But it's a fascinating and really horrific story. And this program this comic Plunge by Joe Hill, I think, tunes into quite a lot of those same kind of emotions. There's a lot of like crazy shit going on.
Yeah. That's kind of on my list of things at the moment. I try and watch. I'm watching Chernobyl at the moment, which is satisfying my real life sort of drama type thing. But that's definitely on
the guy
on my list.
The captain of the Terror is the same guy as Chernobyl, which is really good.
Yeah. Is it Jared Harris?
Yeah. And the other the guy that's playing Franklin is Kieran Hines from Rome and
He played Caesar in Rome. Yeah.
So it's cool. Well cast, like. Neil saying that he read a DC compilation book, and the story that happened, what happened to the Cape Crusader, was written by Neil Gaiman. I've not read that one.
I think I've read that one. What's someone like the DC's greatest? I think if it's a compilation, they did a DC like a Batman greatest 80s stories and a Batman's greatest 90s stories, and possibly it was in that one. But yeah, because Neil Gaiman hasn't done a lot of superhero stuff. A lot of in fact, I'd be struggling to think of any other actual superhero comics that he's written.
I rewatched his.
Did he do some Eternals at all?
Eternals.
The Eternals is his baby. Yeah, it's his baby. I think he did the Eternals movie is going to be based on his run. I think.
Right. Okay. I haven't read the Eternals since like the Jack Kirby sort of style ones back in the sort of 1970s.
I've got it. I've got it sitting somewhere. I think you gave it to me, Colin. I've still got it sitting here somewhere.
It's in my house, and it's not my copy that you gave me, so it must be yours.
All right. It's not very good. I wasn't enjoying it. Sorry, I wasn't enjoying it, and I thought I was going to love it.
I'm not looking forward to. I'm not a superhero fan anyway. So.
No.
It's
a strange choice to do, because they're very, the Inhumans were almost unknown when they put them in a TV show, and it was an absolute bomb. So they're going for an even less well-known sort of franchise. So I think there's some massive names in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Inhumans. I want to say very funny. I watched something about the Inhuman, a comedy. I watched this podcast called The Daily Planet. Not The Daily Planet. They're called Mr. Sunday Movies, but they do a podcast every week called The Weekly Planet. They do, and they review bombs and see why they were so crap. And they did the Inhuman TV series, and it's what's quite funny if you take a step back and you look at what's going on in the Inhumans TV series, it is the fact that anybody thought it was going to be a good idea at any stage is because actually it's like the goodies are the royal family.
The royal family, yeah. Blackpool.
Baddies are the rebelling plebs who are fed up with being mistreated by the royal family based on this the shit world and the shit hierarchy structure, and just the way that the Inhumans build society is inherently flawed and unjust. But
you're saying it's a bit tone deaf in the current thing. Yeah, I can see what you mean.
It's just really like whoever sat there and went, right, we're going to tell that story, and we're going to try and tell it in a way that But yeah, you look at it, you're like, there's no wonder that the people are rebelling. Yous are awful, like. Be like trying to, like you mentioned the French Revolution earlier. Be like trying to make Mary Antoinette the hero of the French Revolution, and that's a weird sort of.
It's a strange choice. It was a strange choice, the story that they went with, and Anson Mount's absolutely brilliant. If you've seen him as Captain Pike in Star Trek, he's brilliant. He's brilliant in Hell on Wheels was the other show that he did, which was the sort of Western one. Putting him in a role where he can't show anything, any depth or anything like that. He's basically just not allowed to speak. Was a bit of a strange choice for me, but
Totally.
I had a wee story about the Eternals that I was thinking this week. And this is maybe just my opinion. It's just a wee thing. They're starting to get pictures coming through, so I'm following a few of the actors on Instagram. And I'm going to forget her name now.
Angelina Jolie, no?
Salma Hayek is on it. So, and Salma Hayek was she was in this week and she's won an award. So they had her, an award ceremony. And I was looking through, so I started following her to see the Eternals costume. And then I was flicking through our pictures, and every single picture, I kid you not, every single picture. This picture was liked by Rob Liefeld and 342 others. Every single one, right? Rob Liefeld is stalking Salma Hayek for some reason on Instagram. I went back, he's liked every picture for 2 years. I don't know if he knows her, I don't know if he knows this, but I just found that a wee bit funny, a wee bit bizarre.
Is he leaving any comments at all?
Checking,
is he going like, not enough pouches or anything like that?
That's probably, look at the pouches on that, possibly. Or...
Why did Rob Liefeld? What does Rob Liefeld? Is he got links? Because I don't even think
I don't think he's got any thingy to the Eternals. No, I don't think he worked on the Eternals at all. It was mostly.
Like, why do I recognise the name Rob Liefeld? And I couldn't put a name to it. But I emailed him as a potential guest on the show, and he's never got back to me.
Okay.
He co-created Cable, isn't he? He's one of the guys.
Yeah, he created Deadpool and Cable and stuff like this.
I love Fabian Nicieza.
Yeah. And then, co-founded Image Comics with Todd. Every time I try and remember his name. Todd McFarlane. And other things. So.
Tell Rob did get back in touch with me. Or somebody representing Rob got back in touch with me and said, I remember messaging Colin at the time going, check this out. And it was, I've the email him back in August when he's a wee bit less busy, apparently, and hopefully we might have Rob Liefeld on the podcast.
Listen, I'd love to chat to Rob Liefeld. He's say what you like about him. Say that his characters look very samey. Say that he can't draw feet, which is the kind of prevailing joke about Rob Liefeld.
We just can't.
He's a massive.
Your work, but please don't check out episode 80 where we suggest that you stalk someone.
Sorry, I shouldn't have cut it. When you're doing the thing, we can cut that from it. I just, when you look at someone, you think.
Look, it's not going to happen. We're not going to get Rob Liefeld.
You got Dave McKean a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah, but I think that's.
How good was that? How good was that interview?
I don't think Rob Liefeld is.
The thing, Dave McKean is still somebody that comic lovers still are interested in.
Yeah, I know.
See, we're definitely not getting him now. He's not coming now. No, after that.
No.
I think the Dave McKean interview was the universe telling us that we were reaching too high. It was like, calm down, back down you go. It's like, or we'll just make it storm in Dunfermline that night.
Could you imagine if Rob Liefeld got to do Conan? He'd have him in a posing pouch.
Yeah. Doing something.
I think
spandex.
The one Rob Liefeld podcast by.
I know. Don't watch this, Rob. We're only kidding. We've seen that. What was that Sean Connery one back in the day that is Zardoz or?
Oh yes.
Where he wears like basically a mankini.
Yeah.
With no sense of irony at all.
No sense of irony at all. And that was designed apparently by Rob Liefeld. That thing there.
Oh dear. I mean, it was
So
terrible.
I'm writing questions down for our
Aye,
serious interviewer, Rob Liefeld. Why are you stalking Salma Hayek?
Why are you
What's the-
stalking someone?
What's the issue
I
with
mean,
the feet? Why did you do that to Sean Connery?
They even referenced that joke in Deadpool 2. The you know, when he was speaking to Domino, and it was like, who would come up with that's a rubbish power. Who would come up with a power like that? Probably somebody who can't draw feet. And it was only the comics fans in the cinema that got that joke. When he said it, everybody else was like, whoosh.
There's a few. I think Deadpool hits so many. The Deadpool films hit so many different buttons that there's funny because I bet there's moments in all the both Deadpool movies where different comic fans and different movie fans thought they got one up on the rest of the room. So there's like the Liefeld joke that I'm not going to admit. I'm going to admit I didn't pick up on until you just mentioned it here now. The bit where one of my favorite bits is when Colossus has to work out he has to fight Dirty if he's going to beat up if he's going to stand toe to toe with the Juggernaut. And he says like I must fight Dirty. He's like I must fight Dirty, and Deadpool goes, "You sweep the leg, Johnny." It's like
Sweep like Johnny.
It's a fucking great difference, which we all get now because we've all seen Cobra Kai. But 4 years ago when that film first came out, I was like,
"All you youngsters." I grew up, again, because I'm slightly older, I grew up with Karate Kid, so I get all the Karate Kid jokes. And I'm massively excited now. Cobra Kai is responsible now for us getting the spin-off show of the Mighty Ducks coming to Disney next week. I think it's dropping, yeah. And I'm just like, yes, yeah, absolutely. This is what I want. Cobra Kai is some of the best television I've watched in the last couple of years.
I liked Cobra Kai, but I have to say in that last series, the fighting was total Power Ranger stuff.
Oh yeah,
they've got to move it up every season.
Guys take like 50 punches to the face, and everything's high powered, fast moving. It was like watching Powers or Japanese superhero shows.
There was that moment with Hawk though. That was my favorite. That was probably my favorite. I watched it with Sean in my oldest. That bit where Hawk is running in slow motion through the house, and you're trying to work out who he's going to hit. It's my favorite thing. It was so good. You're like,
yeah, that's when he came back to the light side. Because I must admit, one of my favorite moments in the second season, I forget his name, but it was when his friend, who'd complained constantly about all the training and stuff like this. Yeah. And then just suddenly realised he could do this thing and threw him into the into the awards trophy cabinet, and it was just like
anyway, guys, we're drifting into TV and
we are, and we're a comics.
We're on the comics side of things.
I love Cobra Kai though, man. Sorry, I could talk about. It's like my favourite show ever. Colin, what have you been reading?
Well, I picked up these through Kickstarter a wee while ago. Just got them this last week. So it's the Altiplano series, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Manu and Puno, by Gustavo Vargas, who is based in the Edinburgh area, believe it or not, Peruvian. And what he's produced is a cyberpunk series set in not a dystopian, electronic-filled city, but Peru. Which is a completely bizarre kind of, mix. It's breaking the rules of cyberpunk, basically. And I first read one of his books, I think, on Comic House, called Lima, and it was about these kids, in the kind of slums of somewhere in Peru, Lima, I guess, city, the capital city, and in this sort of cyberpunk world, and one of them eats this squid. He's got something that he's going to eat, and it's a squid which has somehow been implanted with this special device, that all these different organisations are trying to get a hold of, and he eats this squid that has this device in it, and he becomes very powerful, and he ends up having the kind of super cybernetic powers because of it. And I thought it was fantastic, taking this genre of comic and setting it somewhere completely different. So when I saw that he was doing a Kickstarter, I thought, yeah, I'm definitely going to back that because it's just so different. And I got the books the other week, and they're beautiful. He does the whole thing himself. He does the art, he does the colours, he does the writing. They're nice little A5 books.
The art's
Really
stunning, eh?
beautifully put together. It's got that lovely soft touch cover. Superb colours. The artwork is just amazing, and the storytelling as well. I mean, just taking cyberpunk and putting it in a completely different setting really changes it massively. It's no longer what we would associate with like Akira or Blade Runner at all. So just as an example, in the first issue here, Manu, we've got this girl, Sonia, who's going to visit her girlfriend who lives in the jungle, and she's living in the jungle because she's what's the word? She's hiding out in the jungle. So my wife's telling me to shut up because I'm talking too loud.
Like a contra rebel.
Her girlfriend Leela lives in the jungle because she's hiding out because she's done something in her past. So anyway, they get together. As she's kind of going through the jungle, she comes across all these animals and beasties and things that are all cybernetically enhanced and stuff. Monkeys and snakes and beasties, and eventually a puma thing, a jaguar. That's what it is, and it's got like a cybernetic implant and sort of robot eyes and things. Anyway, she eventually goes to meet her girlfriend. They stay there for a wee while, and some like assassins get sent to bump her off for something that she's done in her past, and then they escape and they go and live in Puno, a different place. Which is kind of by the sea, and they hide out there. But slowly, the girl Leela gets drawn into nefarious activities by some local gangsters. So it's fab. I really love it. It looks beautiful, and it's a 3-part series, so that the last part's still to come out. And it's I would just want to say that it is not an all ages comic. Definitely an adult comic.
Even just the bits I've been putting up, it's very violent.
It's violent. It's got some beautiful stuff in it. Beautiful double-page spread there, which kind of all these little panels here kind of show
Keep it up.
Shows something that's happened in the past of one of the main characters. Fantastic job. I mean, it's one of the most startlingly beautiful comics that I've seen in ages. Gustavo, by the way, is also the artist on. Oh God, keep me right. We had Ash Deadman. Remember, Ash was on the show.
Oh yeah, of course.
A while ago. The bookshop one. God, can't remember what it's called. Anyway, Ash Gustavo's the artist on that book. Anyway,
that's right. Of course,
he featured on the show a few months ago now.
Yeah. So last. Yeah. Nah, that's cool, man. How does the you mentioned that obviously it's set in Peru. How does the storytelling translate? I've often felt I've read a few comics that I've enjoyed, but I've very much felt that because it was a translation or it was comic styled and told with a voice that maybe as a Westerner I'm not massively familiar with.
No, I didn't feel that there was any difficulty there. However, some of it is in dual language. So you've got kind of the local language here, but then a translation as well. But no, I think that the storytelling is you can follow it very well. Though he uses a real mixture of kind of page layouts, really dynamic page layouts, and then very structured ones. So the storytelling works very well and translates well. I mean, no issues there whatsoever.
I think comics in general, generally they're an international medium. You can read, you talk about manga and things like this, which are written in Japanese with a completely different sensibility. but they translate excellently. And I think a good story, no matter what language, no matter the thing, a story is a good story. So
Yeah.
I just remember reading I mean, I got Eisner nominated last year for being one of the best foreign language comics. I think it was foreign language comics. One of my favorite comics of all time is Stay. I read that last year. It's about a lady and her husband are on holiday, and he dies in a horrific accident minutes into their holiday. But he was a total micromanager within their marriage, and so he had the whole wedding, he had the whole holiday managed and like itinerarized. So instead of going, she decides to continue to follow the itinerary despite the fact that he's just died. It was an incredible, like a total mad exploration into like what grief can do to people, and but I did, as I say, when I say like I was reading it, I was thinking I did feel like there was a particular flow to the comic that I wasn't familiar with. Like it wasn't hitting. I remember me and Colin being at and that thing we went to at Edinburgh Uni last year or the year before. She talked about like the westernized like storytelling structure where like of the hero, and you expect a story like Marvel, for example, is the prime example of a company that does this in their movies all the time. Like your story has to hit certain beats. There has to be like a heroic sacrifice. There has to be like your three acts. And a lot of foreign comics in particular don't follow that, and you're like, These Savage Lands or These Savage Shores, is another example that I read where I was like, this is structured completely different to how the majority of the comics I read are structured. So, that sounds cool. That sounds really awesome, Colin.
Yeah, that's something I'm interested in.
I'd love to get Bravo in the show actually, and since he's fairly local, I'm sure we can maybe twist his arm. I'm going to message him this week definitely because he's done this stuff. Plus, he's done the artwork on the bookstore one.
Totally. There's beer gardens opening up soon. You know what I mean? Like hopefully, like
let's hope so.
If he's local, that's how we can twist his arm. Come on, come get a beer. I read. We like to review stuff when folk offer. Folk get in touch with us because if we want to check out their stuff. I had read. On our Twitter page, we were asked if we wanted to have a look at a comic called Laban, because I'm trying to load it up as I talk to it. So Michael Finney got in touch with us and said that he asked if we would look at Of the Same Coin, which is currently on Kickstarter as of time of recording. It's like just under 3 weeks left, but it's hit its goal. So if you were to pledge, you would get this comic. I've read the whole thing, so the comic exists. So if you were to pledge on this, you would be able to get this comic straight away. I talked to the boys about this just before we went to air. I really enjoyed this comic. I'm trying to find a nice, there's some really lovely art in the story. I'm trying to find a nice I'll keep this up while I'm talking. So it was I talked to the boys beforehand. It was a really nice mix of genre for me, and I really enjoyed it. It's about a police officer who's been moved from one department to another to try and oversee an investigation into like a local crime lord. The crime lord that he's trying to get a hold of has a moral code where he only does certain crimes for certain reasons, and he has a strict code of conduct when he's committing certain crimes. So like a bit of like a Robin Hood type figure. So like maybe but ultimately, and a bit of vigilante. There's a bit of vigilanteism to what his behavior as well. But it reminded me of that film Heat. I wrote with the Michael Mann film from the 90s with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, where you've got there isn't really an antagonist and there isn't really a protagonist, because within the sort of the characterization of the two main characters, there's villainy in both sides, but there's also heroism in both sides. So like obviously, I always remember, particularly Heat, there's a scene where Robert Downey Jr., Robert De Niro, is in the bank, and he's explaining that the money that he's robbing will never belong to the people that are in the bank, so they should just stay on the ground and just be quiet while they conduct. And there's almost like a chivalry to this act of villainy where he's robbing a bank, but he's really polite and kind to the hostages. And then you've got Al Pacino's character who, despite being on the right side of the law, is quite a morally ambiguous and not very nice man. And that kind of happens in this comic, and I really liked about that, where the villain, the head of this crime syndicate, is actually a really likable and almost morally astute character, whereas the police officer in charge of bringing him down is doing morally ambiguous, not very etiquette, not using proper etiquette, and when he's and not a very nice man. And I also think that's quite interesting, where you've got the person on the right side of the law is the dislikable character, and the person on the wrong side of the law is the one that you're kind of rooting for. And on top of that, it's set in London, so it reminded me a lot of that program, that A Line of Duty. So there was a very British vibe to it, despite it having reminded me of that film Heat. It also reminded me of sort of these police procedural programs you get, particularly the sort of current British trend for quite serious, quite intense police procedurals that we get, like Line of Duty and Unforgettable or Unforgotten and stuff like that. It was just really cool. I enjoyed reading it, and I was really glad that we were given the opportunity to read it while it's still only available on Kickstarter. So yeah,
I look forward to reading it as well. So
yeah, I look forward to seeing that as well. Yeah.
As I say, they're printing. You can get a digital copy at the moment for £3 or more. You can get a print copy for £5 or more. That's it's due in June, so if you were to pledge now, you would get it. I thought a really good value for money, to be honest. £15 would get you. There's 3 copies of the comic, but they're all with the variant covers and stuff. We had Steve Tanner on last year, and he talked to us a bit about why Kickstarter can be used as a source of generating money for a project, or it can be a really good way of generating a fan base and generating a relationship with your potential future customers. So it's about value for money. It's about having a really quite strong and personal relationship with the people that are pledging. It's about making that, if you pledge for a Kickstarter before it comes out, you should be getting a better deal than somebody that just walked into a comic shop and passed money across the counter, because you've had faith and you've engaged with the project before it became. I think that I was really impressed with the Kickstarter on this as well, because they seem to have definitely taken that kind of advice and that kind of approach.
Well, Jeff, speaking of Kickstarters, we had Thomas Heitler on last week, and his Kickstarter with Quindray Press hit 10 grand this week. So
Brilliant.
They launched it last Thursday, and a day or two ago they hit their 10 grand target. Incredible.
Absolutely.
Kickstarter's brilliant for independent guys and guys who are trying, because it's very hard to get into, a big publisher. It's very hard to sort of break into the comics industry at one of the big guys. So Kickstarter's an ideal opportunity for these guys, and as long as they're given value for money, they're going to do well at it. So yeah, love it.
I've certainly found it with Kickstarter. With me, have chatted back and forth with guys that have engaged in issue 1, and it has resulted in them coming back for issue 2 and asking where issue 3 is, and just checking in on me, which is really nice. Actually, customers in the strictest sense, but folk that are just like, Jeff, how's it going? How's issue 3 going? And you're like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. And that was just an engagement in a conversation, rather than just going buy my thing. It was like, oh, thanks, how are you doing? Yeah. I've got a Facebook page.
I had that with John Lees a couple of years ago when he was doing a Scottish-based horror comic called Sink. And I know it wasn't just me. I think he spoke to almost everybody who sort of backed that and supported it and ordered it and things like that. So
we had John on last year.
He's a thoroughly great, nice guy, brilliant guy, very creative, love his stuff. So Sync's a worky genius.
I think he spends. Yeah, it is absolutely. I think he also spends loads of time on social media. And I shared something about there was a comic post last year that was like it was about panels or pages in comics that like total blow you away. And there's and that you will always go back to it. And there's a specific page in the second trade paperback, I think, that total grabbed me. And I shared it in this random post saying like, this is from Sync. This page is like one of my favorite pages in comics. And John Lee's retweeted it, and I was just like, "That's absolutely incredible that he's that aware that And
he engages with people, and he obviously follows his own name and things like that. So
everybody should read Sync. I remember Colin gave me the first trade paperback of Sync, and actually, I think your words were like, "Read this; it's the best thing ever," something to that effect. But you're like, "This is just like the best comic." And I was just, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think I said the best comic to come in Scotland, probably ever.
It's outstanding, absolutely. If you haven't read it, you should, because it'll change the way you think about comics. It's so powerful.
Maybe just a quick mention to someone else that's on Kickstarter just now. History of Comics. Oh, there's Sync.
Yep. Yeah, that's the initial 6 issue on History of Comics.
Yep. So I don't know. Sometime last year, the first batch, 4 books, History of Comics, is a huge project where they're planning to produce a book for 100 years of comics. So this is developed by the guys who did the Comic Scene magazine. So it's full of articles. It's got like the top 10 comics of that particular year. There's articles about what was big that year. Interviews with writers and creators and stuff. So this is the 1984 book, which was one of them that came out last year. But the next 4 issues are out on Kickstarter just now. I think they're looking for about sort of £9,000 or £10,000 on Kickstarter, and they're about halfway through that at the moment. So if you're wanting number 4 books, you can go and buy them. But
how many of them are they putting out a year? Colin, are they putting it out every other month or?
Not sure how often they're doing that, but it's obviously a huge undertaking. And they're picking out key years. I mean, for 1984, for example, we've got things like Halo Jones, we've got Swamp Thing, we've got Ninja Turtles, or kind of major things that year. So they're obviously starting with some of the very key, moments in comic history, and picking on them. So there's the ones that's out soon.
Just
they're doing, and just look at all those kind of iconic characters there. And the 2021 Green Lantern's got his mask on.
Yeah. The Captain Britain one, I'm not convinced that was his costume in 1976, I think. He had the Lion Rampant costume for the first. I'm not sure if it was months or years. But I noticed when you were flicking through the 86 one there was some of the 84 ones, there was some, obviously the Eastman and Lair's Turtles, there was some Transformers comics in there, which was massive. For me, it was massive in 1984.
No, that's right.
I'm not going to lie, the Comic Scene guys did, it's Comic Scene that put it out, isn't it? I'm not making that up. Yeah, the Comic Scene guys did their top 50 characters of all time as part of their comic book festival they did in February.
Okay.
And Book Shaw wasn't in the top 50, so I just fucking walked away.
Was Jesse Custer? Did he make a top 50?
I would need to double check. Judge Dredd won it, which
there was a huge bias towards British characters, I have to say, in that top 50.
Right. Okay.
Which was expected, wasn't it? They're the Scottish-based production group, aren't they? So,
So a huge British fan base.
I think, wasn't he? And Roger the Dodger, and I think Minnie the Minx. I want to say all 3 of them featured in the top 50. So
he's like dandy comics characters sort of thing. or Dino, one of the two sort of.
You're all Beano, I think. I've not read Beano since I was like 9. So, but, it was like consists very heavily weighted towards the British top 50, but without Hookjaw, who's the greatest British comic ever made. Fight me.
Sandman, surely. I mean, I know it's published by DC Vertigo, but all the talent was British. You know, it was Dave McKean covers. It was Neil Gaiman art. Neil Gaiman.
It's big fishy glory. Look at it.
No, I can't do with Hookjaw. I've never liked the Hookjaw.
This thing was made in 1976. How cool is that? 77, sorry. How cool is that?
It's older than you.
But a full 10 years. Sure. There's some really awesome stuff on Kickstarter just now. I was speaking to Dave Crana this week. David Crana of Glass City Comics. He was saying that he like it's almost addictive. So you have to totally be careful when you go on Kickstarter because a lot of the time projects have maybe got 2 or 3 weeks before you have to like ever pass money over to somebody. You know, often it's like you're pledging for something that's maybe got a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months left on its Kickstarter campaign. It gets really addictive, and then like one day you'll just be like, you can see it on your bank statement. It's like, oh yeah, there's another $5 to PayPal. Oh, there's another $7. It's like it just.
I had a look at my Kickstarter account the other day, and I realised I've backed 78 projects, and they're all comics.
It's pretty cool. I don't think I'm on that many. I'm going to check now because I'm on my Kickstarter account.
You know, your money's going direct to the creators rather than going to Disney, basically, or Marvel or DC's.
And you're getting little extras and stuff that you're not really paying for. So, for example, from Gustavo, you know, got some artwork, so some nice prints, you know, which is nice, you know, and postcards and some stickers and things. And I mean, these weren't things that I pledged for. I only, you know, put in for the comics, but you know, obviously he's raised enough money he could afford to put in a few extras. And you're probably not going to be able to get these terribly easily. You know, if they end up in shops, you're just going to buy the comic. And you know, okay, he's got to Comic Cons, he might have some of these available, but you know, it's a nice little extra to get something from a comic creator when you pledge on Kickstarter.
It's unfortunate as well that the vast majority of Kickstarter comics didn't end up in your local comic shops, because they choose not to go through you know, Diamond, and because you know it's not just giving the massive percentage of the money to Disney or Marvel or DC. Diamond Comics are taking a massive cut out of it as well, and things like this. You know, it probably just isn't financially feasible. So yeah, if you didn't kickstart these guys, short of meeting them at a convention, you're going to have to pay through the nose on eBay or something like that from them.
Certainly, my plan with my first Kickstarter was to get all my take my kids and my wife in the car and do like a wee tour of Scotland, dropping comics off at different and like just going and speaking to the comic shop owners. Obviously, I don't know if that's a good strategy or anything, but
most comic shops, in my opinion, will take on local artists.
Yeah.
Stuff.
There are a few though, I have to say, that are just not interested.
Yeah,
I've encountered them, you know, and I was quite surprised, you know, no take any.
Most comic shops have got like a space that's for like independent, even
the vast majority do, but there are a few that have just been, you know, on the verge of being not very nice.
Well, I find that really quite disheartening. I counted there. I've got 25 projects, all comics on Kickstarter that I backed. I'm currently backing this one, which has got it's just got a week left. Just thought, I don't know, you got anything on back just now, Colin, that you're like?
I think the last thing I backed was Tom Ward's Elephant Man.
Oh yeah. I'm backing Dungeon Cops because I thought it sounded amazing. the non-player characters in Dungeons and Dragons that maintain the world while in between games. It's like a police force of skeletons that just make sure that everything in the Dungeons and Dragons universe is okay in between games. It's like,
Such a genius idea, right?
I'm all over that. And yeah,
I think Ryan Reynolds has a movie coming out soon, which has got a similar premise about NPCs in video games.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's been due to come out for a while, I think, and obviously due to everything, it's not out, but it looks a lot of fun.
We've got before we move on to the next segment, and Neil Bailey has got a question which I think we're in quite a good position to answer. What are our views on the 77? Colin.
I have quite a few. I've got all the issues of the 77. I really like it. I think it's interesting. I'd love it to be out more regularly, so I could kind of keep up with the stories. Ideally if it was weekly, but it's coming out, every kind of couple of months now. So issue 5 is getting kickstarted really soon. I mean, literally like next week, I think.
Yeah, I think it is.
But there's some good stories in there, I have to say, and some excellent writers and artists involved in it. In fact, on Saturday, we're going to be speaking to Bambos Giorgio, who is one of the writers for the 77. So we've got him chatting to us as part of the Capital Sci-Fi Con thing this weekend. But Bambos is 30 years in the business. He did Knights of Pendragon for Marvel. He's done a whole bunch of other things, Warheads. He's worked on 2000 AD, etc. I think. And he's involved in the 77. I think if you are a 2000 AD fan, then you probably won't quite like it because it's in the same sort of vein. It's got storylines that you can see there's a little bit of a nod towards something that exists or existed in the past of 2000 AD.
Kind of stuff in there as well. And if you want to go back, I'm on our YouTube channel. Episode 74, Neil, and episode 46 both feature Banksy, who is the editor and the supreme leader of the 77. We've also got he's if you're on Banksy is often on our Facebook page. If you see him, just drop him a message.
It's unusual for him not to leave a comment when we're live. Actually,
he'll probably, I think he has.
I don't know where I put them. They should be here.
He's one of the likes on the channel just now. Drop him a wee message. He'll accommodate. He's a really awesome guy. Episode 74. We had Steve McManus, formerly Tharg, of 2000 AD, but heavily involved in the 77 and the 77 spin-off series Blazer. Dan Cornwell, who is We had Dan Cornwell as well, we had Dan Cornwell in that episode as well, who's cover artist for 2000
Rock of the Reds, Dan Cornwell. 2000 AD, Judge Dredd artist.
His Judge Dredd story, by the way, was absolutely amazing. I don't know if anyone actually the issue where Dan did the cover. He also drew the Judge Dredd strip that was inside that week, and it was about I can't remember what they're called in Mega City One. The guys that have like, they call them mutant? I think they call them mutes or muties, but like there's like humans with enhanced abilities that live within Mega City One. And it was a story about a security guard that saw everybody naked. So he was like a really good security guard because he could see if folk were shoplifting because he could see them without their clothes. So if they'd like pickpocketed something they shouldn't have on their, you would see it on their person. It was just really funny. I imagine Dan had a lot of fun drawing, like, as you can imagine, because it's 2000 AD, it's still got to be relatively
PG-13 sort of thing.
So like obviously like helmets and plants and badges, all in just the right place, so that there was no like gratuitous nudity. It was just quite funny. It was quite a cool story, and quite a funny punchline about the size of Judge Dredd's privates. It was just a cool wee story. It's Neil saying that he met Steve McManus at the 40th anniversary. Yeah, so absolutely check out Blazer, which it's just finished printing, isn't it? I know Ben's been spending most of the week.
So I should get my complimentary copy over the next week or so.
Why should you get a complimentary copy, Colin?
I might be one of the artists on the comic, so so all the people involved get a comp or 2 or 3 or I don't know how many. But anyway, yeah, it's quite interesting, Blazer, because they are talking about issue 2 has been greenlit. There's going to be a second issue, and I'm continuing drawing the same series. So that's cool. So I'm working on that just now. That's ongoing, and I've actually been chatting with Steve McManus over the past week because I came up with an idea for a storyline for those same characters. So I'm drafting a script along with Steve McManus right now. So that's hot. Nobody else knows about it apart from me and Steve. So we've been kind of putting together a story, which we're going to pitch to the 77 for something later in the year.
Me and my pal fucking Tharg from 2000 AD.
I think I love the sort of the wee hook that Blazer's got. That it's portraying itself not as a retro comic, but as an actual comic, which is getting ready to publish in 1970.
That's right.
4 or 5 or something. Yeah. It's just a really interesting idea to have done it.
I'm trying to pitch something to not to Action, because to Blazer, because obviously they don't have a supernatural killing animal strip in Blazer yet.
Okay.
Not yet. No.
Yeah, they need one though.
And Steve McManus is a big Shack.
But then obviously Shackle's a good shout. Again, giant polar bears. Like it all comes back around to that doomed Franklin expedition, eh? But
I'm looking for my books here. I'm looking for my action and stuff, but they're not here. I don't know where they are.
I think I have them. I didn't realise that's what you were looking for. I think you lent them to me. We're talking about Action Comics and supernatural animals. You know who the best supernatural animal that Action Comics ever put out? This guy. Oh, there he is. Look.
Is it an aquatic animal?
He's great. I fucking love it.
We very nearly had Superman fighting polar bears. If you've ever read or managed to get a hold of Kevin Smith's script for Superman Returns that he did back in the sort of 1990s, and he had Superman fighting polar bears. Just so you talked about polar bears there. But, so that was very nearly the most awesome animal in Action Comics.
Oh yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, nice. That's really funny when you buy Action Comics on eBay, because obviously there's Action. This one, the 70s. But you've also got like Action Comics, the famous Superman holding up the car Action Comics. It's quite tricky finding them. We've also got
why Blazer is called Blazer, because in the novel that it's based on, or at least the stories are based on, it's called Blaze, but there is actually a Marvel Blaze comic, so they had to tweak it slightly.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's cool. I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, I backed it, so I'm excited to get my copy.
I'll probably have a copy early, so I'll tempt you over video conferencing with it.
Look at my comic, signed by all the artists as well.
That's absolutely. We're really happy for you, Colin. That's absolutely amazing. It's cool. It must be really exciting. We've also got Joe Healy on our. I don't know if you mentioned that already, but in the same panel on Saturday, with Joe Healy, who you're saying about the 77 being a publishing house. She's going to be the editor on Pandora, which is the next sort of spin-off from the 77, which is quite interesting as well. It's a kind of like the 77 spin on Misty Comics, and that sort of thing, isn't it?
Misty, Ginty, that sort of thing. So yeah, that is pretty interesting. Interestingly, Ian Kennedy worked on Ginty, and I know it's kind of been mentioned that they'd love to get him to do something for it. So that would be cool. Be nice to work with Ian again.
Yeah, phenomenal artist and the cover work by Ian. Yeah, that would be quite smart. That would be cool. It's just quite exciting. It's always really nice to speak to Ben and the guys, because actually what they're doing is super exciting and quite. It feels quite like it's just, you know, they're on the cusp of something absolutely massive. It must be quite an exciting time for them.
Yeah, their fans have made something, you know, out of their fandom, and it's captured the imaginations of lots of other fans as well.
Totally.
And they're getting kind of distribution deals and things. So, you know,
that's the next big step. Is a decent distribution deal to get it out to more places, and you know, here's hoping.
Yeah. He actually disappeared. Back on. We're gonna have a couple minutes to come in. Right. I don't know if it's too late, right? Because but while we're waiting for Colin, he should be back in a couple of moments. I can see the thing flickering. I wanted to talk about. I thought this was going to be quite a short podcast because we don't have as many guests. We don't have any guests. I would like to, while we're here,
Association with Mark Abnett's inability to not spoil TV programs. It's time for Let's Try and Guess What's Happening in WandaVision.
Obviously it was a season finale of WandaVision last night, and spoilers if you've not seen it, it was pretty good. But we this will technically be the last, because I don't think they're going to renew. WandaVision isn't getting a season 2, is it? So this is like.
I don't think so. I don't see the need for WandaVision season 2. I think the characters now will go on to the sort of next phase. Avengers movies, you might see Wanda in Doctor Strange. You know, that's can be theorized. She's becoming a massively powerful character. She might even be one of the bad guys. You know, a lot of theories that her searching for her kids is going to be, it's going to be part of the storyline of the Doctor Strange.
We're going to see what they do. I liked. It did feel like, for the first time this season, it felt like a conventional episode of a superhero program. When I watched this season, when I watched the season finale, I felt it was very reminiscent of a DC, like when the CW DC season finales. It felt like it was still. I thought it was really good. It was perfectly serviceable. But I do feel the general. I do feel the general consensus that it was a slight letdown when you.
I think they put it up to such heights that would have been difficult to sort of go out on a massive bang, and they did have a lot of story to resolve, which they did. I thought very, very well. A lot of people left with egg on their face. A lot of people expecting to see cameos and things like this. A lot of Paul Bettany teasing that there was going to be a massive Luke Skywalker style cameo in the final episode, and it never came.
So I thought my understanding, I maybe misread it. I thought the cameo they were talking about was the Quicksilver one, which obviously they resolved slightly. But I thought the joke I thought Paul Bettany was saying was he worked with an actor that he's always wanted to work with, and he meant himself. I think it was what he was kind of right. Yeah, like he's never got to act with this guy, but he was talking about his interactions with the White Vision, which I thought were really cool actually. Within the confines of the episode, I liked that. They had I liked that in the middle of like what should have been like an action-packed set piece. They had a philosophical discussion, which was quite smart.
I love the Theseus's ship conversation, and to explain that to a lot of people online, it became Trigger's broom, which was a kind of an ongoing joke from Only Fools and Horses back in the day. where he had a broom that had 4 handles and 3 different broom bits, and he did that broom for 30 years, which I thought was quite a nice wee tangent that happened online. But yeah, it was. They're absolutely sticking to the comic storyline there by having White Vision, with no emotion, just giving them the memories now, and then they're going to see what happens and see if Vision can come back from there. So
it's good. I thought it was really well done. But that, I thought I thought it was quite emotionally heartbreaking that it went as like Westview became like normalized again, and her hex started to shorten down, and she ended up losing everything again. I thought that was quite
and then she had to walk past all those people that she'd turned into puppets for weeks and months and things like this. It was a very emotionally powerful episode.
That's it. I'm assuming it's Colin.
So it's Colin from that,
He also mentioned that.
The elephant. That's another show that we're going to have, obviously, hopefully in this country soon, is The Watch, which is based on the Terry Pratchett shows.
There's a lot of TV coming up. I was thinking about this earlier because, like, my running joke was going to be that I'm just going to change the word WandaVision in our credit sequence for this segment, whatever it is we're watching. Presumably, it's going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier from next week, but also we're going to have. I want to have some sort of discussion about the Snyder Cut, which they announced yesterday is getting a British release through Sky. So
yes, I believe it's going to be in Sky Movies. So you may have to get a 7-day trial just in order to get that, I think.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, now TV's free for 7 days.
Now TV 7-day trial. I'm exactly the same. Yeah, that's what I'll be doing. I'm not paying for Sky Movies. I already pay for Netflix, Amazon, Disney, Stars, so that I can watch The Stand and Pennyworth and things like that.
Have they announced for it? Is it Star? No, I was thinking of something else. Stars is the Disney one, isn't it? Is that right?
No, Stars is on Amazon.
Yeah, I was right. Have they got the? So this is probably one of the conversations we need to have when we're off here. But Stars are doing the new Stephen Amell series, aren't they? Is it called Heels?
Yeah. Yes, the wrestling.
Is that on Amazon Prime yet? No,
it's not yet. Or I haven't seen it yet. So
I'm actually really excited about that. I like wrestling and I like Steve Amell. So
Stars at the moment have got a deal on where it's like £1.99 on top of your Amazon Prime, and it's £1.99 a month for 6 months for the first 6 months. I got it quite recently because I wanted to watch The Stand, the Stephen King adaptation, and also another season of Pennyworth apparently is coming. So there is some decent stuff on there.
So we have to have a conversation about what we're going to watch and review as a squad, because I think WandaVision was quite a natural one, but obviously Jupiter Rising's coming, isn't it?
Yes, that looks excellent as well. I'm not sure what else coming out. Is it with no much being made in the last year? I think obviously Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Hopefully a new season of Titans, a new season of Doom Patrol. Hopefully coming.
We've got Loki coming out as well, don't we? And
Loki looks excellent as well.
Yeah. Cool. We didn't really talk that much about WandaVision, but I think that's totally fine. I do hope that it isn't a plot hole and they are going to, or it isn't crap plotting. But I wanted them to do more with Evan Peters' character. I hope that wasn't just a joke that they're going to brush under the carpet.
I'm honestly not sure. Like I said, the Ralph Boner sort of reveal felt like I felt like they were underlining it, and I think if they're going to bring, I don't think they're going to bring Pietro back. If they did bring him back from the dead, I think it would be Aaron Taylor Johnson again.
It just felt like I understand it's a multiverse, and there's a lot of coincidence that they can write into it. But I thought I would hope that that's not one of them. I thought it was too big a moment for them just to say, "Oh no, it was just a Ralph Boner thing."
Yeah. I'd love to see them bring lots of the guys from the from the Fox X-Men, and I think a few of the guys did. Fassbender was phenomenal. in it.
Yeah.
James McAvoy was phenomenal in it. Evan Peters was phenomenal in it. You know, I'd love to see them bring. I know Hugh Jackman doesn't want to come back really and do any more, but if they're going to bring Deadpool over with those ones, they can, they can bring in some of the younger ones.
Is there anybody you want for the multiverse? Is there anyone that you want them to bring in, like that's maybe from the comics that you're like, oh, I'm not going to see it, but I wish they were there?
Anyone from the comics,
or anybody from like the MCU in the Marvel universe that you're aware of? That you're like, oh, if they're going to bring him in, that would be amazing.
Well, I've said for a while, I think they should bring Wonder Man in. I think he's like that cheesy actor character, but he's also, unbreakable skin, super strength. He's just a perfect. Nathan Fillion sort of played him in I think Age of Ultron as characters on posters when they were doing a Simon Williams retrospective, and he's quite an important character in the Visions storyline. He was originally the guy who supplied the brain patterns to make a Vision human. So I'd really like to see him brought in. Who else? I think there's some characters that have been underused, particularly in the Marvel. When Fox had X-Men. I think there's some characters. Colossus was massively underused in all the X-Men movies, coming into his own a wee bit in Deadpool.
Yeah.
But, he's a great character.
Deadpool, actually, he was absolutely incredible in Deadpool. I've been reading a lot of the comics. I would like to see Gwenpool. I don't know if that's even possible, but I really like her.
You possibly see her in animated form, because obviously they sort of had her in the Into the Spider-Verse.
The Spider-Verse. I think Gwenpool's one of my favourite. I've read comics where they've listed, like, because she's a West Coast in the comics, when she's in the West Coast Avengers, and when they list, like, there's sometimes like in comics where you're introducing characters where they'll line them up and show you like with a wee box telling you who it is and what their superpowers are. And she's got one of her powers that they've listed as meta awareness, which is really quite, and that she's like the only one that knows she's actually in a comic book the whole time, which I always think was funny. And I like Superior Spider-Man as well. I've been reading a lot of him recently and been like, Superior Spider-Man would be awesome in a film where you've got you imagine Tom Holland.
Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Miles Morales, Superior Spider-Man sort of thing, yeah.
Oh, it's Superior
Spider-Man. To Octavius.
Spider-Man. I just love this idea of having Tom Holland, but as an absolute dick, would be absolutely amazing. Like where he's he's like wearing glasses and is proper up on himself, and he thinks he's above everybody else, and I think that would just be really an interesting twist on the same character, which is
They've got so much they could do with with Spider-Man in particular, and a lot of rumours flying about recently that Craven Hunter was going to be the next one, and it was going to be Keanu Reeves was going to play him. I think that was debunked this week though. But
I think Colin's saying that he's not bothered about superhero stuff, as he knows he's going to skip Falcon and Winter guy. I think it'll be quite service.
Sorry, mate, I didn't hear what you were saying.
I think Falcon and Winter Soldier will be quite fun. I think if it doesn't take itself too seriously, it would be totally adequate.
I think I'm with Colin though. There's certain things that they've talked about for years. I'm very much looking forward to the third season of The Boys. For years they've talked about doing Why the Last Man as a comic.
I love Why the Last Man
as a movie. Yeah, that's one of my all-time favourites as well, and it's a fully self-enclosed story, so they could certainly do that. There's so much. Mostly Disney are going to do Marvel stuff, but the other guys, Amazon and stuff like this, are picking up a lot of good independent comics, and I'm really excited to see a lot of it over the next year or two. And Jupiter's Legacy is just got, the Millerverse. Mark Miller's got a huge amount of material that they can lift from. Jupiter's Legacy is just going to be the start of it.
Totally. That's what, as Colin was saying there, that's certainly what he's looking forward to. Awesome. I think there we go. Michelle Gomez is coming to Doom Patrol. She's going to be the antagonist. I can't remember who they announced her as. She's going to be the big bad from season 3.
Okay.
I saw. Obviously, I saw.
She's brilliant in everything. I first seen her in a show called Game Wing, which was a Channel 4 comedy about
Is that the
a
hospital?
Yeah, and she played this super evil HR woman in that, and she was absolutely brilliant. And obviously, she was absolutely brilliant in Doctor Who. I don't know if you've watched any of the thrilling adventures of Sabrina.
Yeah, she's the principal in that, isn't she?
Yes, she's the school principal in that. She's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant in anything she does.
In Doom Patrol.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. I think she's stunning as well. I saw something with her, and I was just like, she's beautiful, and just she's an incredible actress. Just like she was great on Doctor Who, and
I don't know if she still is, but at one point she was married to Jack Davenport from Coupling, and he was the kind of swashbuckling. Well, he wasn't the swashbuckling. He was the
he was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean. He was the tight-lipped sort of guy there. I don't know if they're still married, but at one point they certainly were.
Yeah, my wife shouting from next door. He was also Niles in This Life.
Possibly This Life. I loved him in Coupling. This show Coupling that was on again back in the 90s. It was like the British version of Friends, but a little bit racier, and he was brilliant in that.
Yeah. That's big news. I'm trying to other big news that came out this week. Marvel are doing. Who's the comic? Who's the sticker company? Is it like
Panini or?
Yeah, it's I think
Fleets.
I read this week. I'm going to try and find it. Panini are doing something with the Marvel comics this year, which I think.
There's been a massive surge in collectible cards recently. Marvel went big into collectible cards in the 1990s before their first tank, when they were doing lots of variant covers and collectible cards and stuff like this, and they started overproducing, and that caused that's what part of what caused the collapse of Marvel and them having to sell off all their major characters. So
they've got bizarre. They're holding bizarre rates in certain kind of. Starting from next week, Panini Comics in the UK are doing like weird big launches of stuff, starting with Amazing Spider-Man. I think they're going to be supermarket numbers. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to look at it.
Panini's always done like the the W.H. Smith's comics, the British reprints of American comics. So Panini have done them for many years, and they're great value for money, because for $3.95 or something like that, you'll get a comic which is equivalent of 2 American comics, and sometimes with an older story in the middle of them.
I didn't realize that. I do know that they made their announcement today where they're bringing out things like in April they're going to bring out, it's going to be £8 every 4 weeks, and it's going to be 12 pages. But they're doing the Dawn of X, House of X, and Powers of X stuff as part of that run. And then they're doing the Avengers Fantastic Four Empire storyline from last year as part of this. So £8 every 4 weeks, and you're getting like you say, it's 112 pages. So that's
112 pages is about, it's between 3 and 4 issues. Like $3.99 $3.99 comic would usually be 24 pages of story, and a $4.99 comic maybe 36 pages of story. It's cheaper than buying the American first issues, and they have nice cardstock covers, so that they'll stand better and things like that.
Awesome. That was the thing. I was like, oh, that's interesting, because it's the first time I've seen them make quite a big deal about it as well. Like you said, I was aware that you could get like these editions of Spider-Man stuff and W. Smith. I never bought them. But I just thought, they announced that there's the House of X and Power of X storyline is getting released through that format, which is quite a big deal, I think. Yeah. So
I've got a load of them in the shop. I buy them in very cheaply, because there's no real collectible value to them, because they're not the first appearance of the stories. They are British reprints several months after. So I buy them in very cheaply, but I sell them very cheaply as well. I think I sell them for £1. And whenever I get parents in with, this is my son, he's 12, he wants to get into comics, I'll always steer them towards them, because for £5 you can get massive amounts of stories. So I think I buy them in about 50p and sell them for £1 to get the youngsters and sort of involved. And I've got lots of X-Men ones, lots of Spider-Man.
Cool.
Even used to do Batman and Superman as well.
I think there's a Batman one coming out this year as part of that thing I was saying. So yeah, cool. Was there anything else you wanted to chat about?
I don't think so. No, I think I'd say it's been a quick ride.
The one that'll be like turned into.
Turn it in. Aye. I was in the shop. I was in the shop a couple of days ago. Just if anyone's interested, starting to get it basically unmothballed, trying to get it ready for hopefully reopening in a few weeks. So
that's exciting.
If anybody's, if we've got Kirkcaldy people here, I'm getting ready. We'll be back soon.
Amazing. It's good news, man. That's really good news. I picked up a bike from Langtoon Cycles, which is just a couple of doors down from your shop. I picked up a bike there a couple of weeks ago for work, and I saw the shop where I was just like, I would have gone in any other time, but obviously to say hi. Obviously you weren't there, so it was quite sad. But I'm hoping that I'm going to have to return that bike and buy a new one in middle of April, and I would hope that you were kind of there or about there by that point. So.
I would hope so. I'll be available by the middle of April. I'll hopefully at least be there for collections, so you'll be able to come in and say hello and things like this. Because I don't know when the last time you were in the shop. When the last time you were in the shop was.
It was. I didn't know you, but I was in there. I was there. You also the day before my youngest son was born, I went and bought a bunch of graphic novels off you because I knew I was going to be stuck in the hospital for quite a long time. You did me some really good deals on graphic novels, which was really awesome. This weekend is Capital Sci-Fi Con. That was the last thing I wanted to chat about. It's all happening virtually. It's I think it's $3.95 to get you a pass to most of the panels. There's a couple of sort of premium panels featuring large groups of the teams behind films like Ghostbusters and games like Game of Thrones and stuff. And then there's a panel, I think it's like a $5 that's made up of voice actors from Disney films, but it's a Q&A session, so you're paying for the opportunity to go in and chat to people involved with some of your favorite movies, which is really awesome. But yeah, a general pass I think is $3.95, and it starts at 10 a.m. on Saturday and runs through until 10 p.m. and with new entry included to loads of different panels and discussions and videos and stuff, including we've got 2 panels, which I'm quite excited about. Colin mentioned earlier that we've got Joe and Babas from the 77, and then earlier in the day, because we had to do it early because he's joining us from the other side of the world, we've got Dave Pugh, which is really nice stuff as well. I bought loads of his stuff on. I became a David Pugh fanboy, but in preparation, I bought myself the 1996 official Robocop annual.
Brilliant!
I didn't even know this was a thing. How cool is that?
Yeah, no, it looks great.
He did the cover art for that, so I'm going to chat. I want to chat to him because a lot of his work, particularly kind of later on in his career, is doing annuals for stuff like Robocop and Masked Rider, which was one of the programs. If folk remember it, I loved it because I was target age at the time.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. It does look like a blatant rip-off of Johnny Blaze.
Ghost Rider
sort of thing.
So Masked Rider was it was is it Haim Saban, I think is the name of the production company. The guys behind the Power Rangers. So obviously the formula of buying in all this stock footage from Japan of superhero fights, and then filming on the cheap American actors, let's get into our costumes, and then having the fight, and then being out of costume later on, going, man, that was a hard fight, and then doing that.
As soon as the fight starts, they're suddenly in downtown Tokyo. And, there's not everybody's Oriental.
Yeah, like a quarry or
quarry could be anywhere.
So I liked Masked Rider, but when Power Rangers was the mad success that it was in the early 90s, they bought up as many different of these kind of shows as they could and just tried to reproduce the format. So they did Big Bad Beetleborgs, I think was one, VR Troopers, and then Mass Rider.
I sort of remember that one. Aye.
But
I'm a wee bit too old for Power. Sorry, I'm a wee bit too old for Power Rangers. I went through it with my kids, with a couple of different iterations when they were young, and they had to have all these toys. And it was Space Patrol Delta or something like that.
It was like a police one because it was a gimmick every year as well. It was like dinosaurs.
Every year or two they changed it. There was a dinosaur one was Dino Thunder. And yeah, my youngest lad Joshua won't thank me for telling you, but he was mad into that back in the day.
I think I still am. Me and my oldest son collect the Megazords because you can get them quite cheap.
Yeah.
Mass Rider was a personal favourite, and so Dave did the cover art for that as well. So
cool.
Yeah, actually, I bought it, and then on his Facebook page, he was like, "Oh, like, does anyone actually have a copy?" Because he couldn't find one. I was like, "Oh," so I was very proud to be able to go.
So I asked you to send it to him.
Obviously, yeah. Most famously, of it, he did Slain for 2000 AD in the 1980s. Is widely regarded as being responsible for a lot of the aesthetics that we now hold as aesthetics, of Slain. So I finished reading the most current Slain strip that they've just done a 10-issue arc in 2000 AD on Slain, and I also, in preparation for Saturday, reread Dave Pugh's first story that he drew for 2000 AD, and aesthetically they're very similar. So I think David Pugh is regarded as being responsible for a lot of the aesthetic changes that have then.
Cool.
And then,
I mean, Slane's obviously very, it's immediately recognisable, the art style of it. So, yeah.
He also did Mask as well, which I'm excited to ask him about. He drew Mask comics for like years, and then he did loads of other stuff as well, which we're going to ask about. I'm quite, I don't know.
It's just a shame it's not live and you can't get your annuals signed and things like that.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, right. Part of me is quite, he wouldn't be able to have attended if it was live though. So I'm kind of,
Yeah, I suppose.
Focused because he does live in the Far East. So, but yeah, it's amazing that he's going to join us. So yeah, I think we were on it if you go onto our Facebook page, you can see the list.
You're on at like 11 o'clock and then 7 o'clock or something like that.
I think it's like 2 and 7. But there's loads of things there's loads of other ways and stuff as well. I think we're on just after there's a Game of Thrones panel, and then there's a pre-recorded panel from the guys behind the Collective, which I don't know if anyone's seen your stuff at Comic Cons, but they're great. They're a modelling company that specialise in the sort of the Jerry Anderson stuff. So if you've been to Capital Sci-Fi Con in the past, their stuff's fabulous. Like they've done scale models.
I've seen the models. These massive signs saying "Please do not touch the models," and everybody touching the models. It's just crazy.
Incredible stuff though, and they're on just before us. And then I think it's a live music set from Darth Elvis after us, which you have seen live. They're like a weird combination of Star Wars and like punk rock. Totally check. But yeah, that's all the links in that are on our Facebook page.
Cool. I'll miss some of it on the day. Unfortunately, I'm doing an auction on my own page on Saturday afternoon. So just try to keep ticking along, and I'll be giving away some goodies and things like that on there. But I'll certainly try and catch. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just saying, folks should check that as well. Kingdom Comics, isn't it? It's your Kingdom Comics.
Yeah, Kingdom Comics page on Saturday. I'm doing a live auction, and I'll be certain lots that are up, but I'll be throwing in extra comics with most of the lots, and giving everybody gets an Eternals comic with every lot. So.
For wedging in their doors to keep them open and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I just have loads of them. So
okay, right, man. We'll call it quits.
Call it a day. It's been lovely again. I'll go and get another beer.
Thank you, Colin. I know he's floating around somewhere.
That's Colin saying. Obviously, just before this all sort of kicked off, I was supposed to be doing a comic creation workshop with Colin and a couple of other local guys, Barry and Michael. Yeah, we will absolutely get that sorted out going forward as well. Like a kids comic creation workshop, Kingdom Comics, hopefully by the end of this year. Hopefully at some point this year.
It's exciting stuff. Yeah, that's exciting stuff. And that's Neil saying cheers. So yeah, we'll call it right. Thank you so much,
Cheers,
guys. See you next week. We've got Simon Burks, who's the writer and artist on the Shadow of Innsmouth.
Oh, excellent. I like a bit of Cthulhu.
Yeah, a really cool comic. He's going to join us next week to chat about issue 2, which is about to kickstart. So that's exciting stuff as well. So yeah, we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.